Today we're going to be taking a look at the ArcCaptain MIG130. This is a flux core machine. Despite the name, it is only flux capable when it comes to wire fed welding. This is a 110 only unit, and the interesting part about this particular machine is that it is what they call Synergic, meaning you only have one control knob for amperage on the front of this machine. Everything else gets set by the machine after you set that amperage, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out. In addition to flux core welding, this machine also will stick weld as well as lift TIG. However, in the box you only get the wire fed setup as well as an electrode holder for stick welding. If you want to do lift TIG, you'd have to purchase that on your own. Another feature of this machine is this is an all metal case, which is really nice to see. A lot of these machines come with a lot of plastic on them. This one is all metal except for like the handle and the front plate here. So definitely seems like a well-built and sturdy unit. This is a top open machine, not a side open. So that's kind of personal preference. Sometimes it's a little easier to put wire in a top load machine versus side load. We'll only handle 2-pound spools. There's not enough room in there for anything bigger. But a very interesting feature of this machine is that in addition to .030 and .035 wire, this will also handle .040 wire. And I don't have any of that on hand, but it will be interesting to try that out down the road. Another nice feature of this machine are the latches themselves. They are metal and they are spring loaded, which is kind of different. So when you go to lift one of these up, it wants to go back down to the closed position. So it makes opening this maybe a little more cumbersome, but it is definitely secure when it is closed. In the box with this machine, you're going to get your wire fed MIG setup here, which is permanently attached to this machine more or less. You could probably get it off, but it comes installed already. You also get your ground clamp, which I will give them some props. This is definitely a decent length ground clamp compared to other machines in this price range. The MIG setup is kind of a standard length, so typically you end up with enough MIG length on a lot of these machines, but a very short ground. This one's almost the opposite, not necessarily worse than other machines. It just would have been nice to have an extra foot or so on this MIG setup to kind of match that ground clamp. You're also going to get a couple extra tips. These are all .030 tips. So out of the box, you will only be able to do .030 wire unless you purchase additional tips. You get a 2-pound spool of .030 wire. So we're going to try that out in this machine today. And then you, of course, get your electrode holder for stick welding. There is a carrying strap that can go in the top of the machine here. I don't tend to put those on just because they kind of get in the way on the shelf when you're using them in a fixed location. And then you get one of the brush hammer combos that you see in a lot of these machines. So other than that, there's not too much else that comes with it, but it is everything you need to get welding out of the box aside from your safety equipment like your welding hood and gloves. So on the front of the machine here, you've got just your amperage adjustment knob. That's the only thing this does. It's not a button or anything else. It's strictly a knob. Over here, you've got your wire size selection for flux core welding. You got 1 millimeter, 0.9 millimeter, and 0.8 millimeter. So that's .040, 0.035, and .030. You pick that. The machine does its calculations inside of it based on your amperage setting, and away you go. Down here, this button switches between your modes. So this top one is the flux mode, the middle one here is the stick mode, and then lift TIG is down here at the bottom. This knob still controls your amperage. One thing I have noticed is that sometimes it remembers what amperage you're set at and sometimes it doesn't. So just keep that in mind if you're switching modes to double check that. Another well thought out feature of this machine is the fact that this wire holder has a quarter turn knob on it, so you don't have to unthread this thing forever in order to get a spool on and off. It's a simple quarter turn and everything is loosened up. That does mean you don't have any control over tension, however, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out. If it works, that's a super nice feature that a lot of machines do not have. It's also important to know that the wire feed wheel in here, while the machine supports .040, .035, and .030 wire, the wheel that they give you in here only handles .030 and .035. So if you wanted to use .040, you would have to purchase a different wheel. Alright, so we're going to do some tests on this plate I've got right here. I'm going to run it through at probably a couple amperage settings. And I'm not going to be able to max this machine out due to the breakers I have in here for 110. So we'll see how high we can go before I start tripping a breaker. So these are the welds after a quick wire brushing. I didn't get a wheel out or anything for these. And they're pretty good, actually. I'm very surprised and very happy with the results that come out of this machine. This up here, I was trying to test something and wasn't looking while I was welding. That's why that looks a little suspect there. Same with down here, a little janky because I was doing the same. But these here where I was actually paying attention to what I was doing, they all turned out pretty well. You can tell this one would clean up a little bit better if I took a wire wheel to it. But the wire itself is actually pretty decent too. I was very surprised by the quality of this wire. So I'll put a link to this down in the description below as well if I can find one. Link to the machine's going to be down there too. But yeah, definitely very pleasantly surprised with this machine, especially without having that ability to fine tune. So some final thoughts about this machine. Overall, I'm very impressed and surprised by the quality of welds you can get out of this thing, only having that amperage knob. The machine does a really great job of sorting everything out for you. The second thing is, for the price of this machine, I'm very impressed by the build quality and some of the features that it has that you don't see on a lot of other machines in this price range. So the regular price for this is $190. Currently, it is at $149.99 with an additional $15 off coupon. So definitely a good time to buy one of these if you're looking for something like this, because it's on sale for probably the lowest I've seen it. Now at that price, you're getting a lot for your money. You're getting this nice metal case that's pretty thick metal. You're getting metal hardware for the latches. You also get that quarter turn spool change, which is awesome. I wish more machines had that because it makes changing out spools so much easier. So if you're going to compare this to something like a Titanium 125 from Harbor Freight, regular price it's about there with the Harbor Freight machine. However, you get a lot more out of this machine. You get the ability to stick weld. You have the option to purchase a Lift TIG setup and do that. You're still on 110 only, so that doesn't change. You do get 5 more amps out of this machine if that's a concern for you. But overall, I think this particular machine would be the better buy if you're coming down to one or the other. So definitely check this out. Another thing is that this wire they include with this machine has been the best wire that I have had included with a machine. So if there's a link for this separately, I'm going to include that in the description below. I would definitely check this out depending on the price. I haven't looked it up yet, but it is on par with the Forney flux core wire that I normally use. So if the price is right, I'm probably going to start buying this stuff because it's that good. Thanks for watching. Hope this review was helpful to you, and we will catch you on the next one.